Leo Maxwell stared at the newspaper ad, his heart doing a jitterbug inside his chest, casting call for Heartbreak Highway, a new Elvis Presley motion picture. He traced the words, his finger lingering on the line that read, "Seeking unique and Minoc talent." He'd been unique his whole life. At 4 feet 7 inches, Leo often felt like he lived in a world built for giants, but his size never stopped him from dreaming big. He'd always loved movies, especially Elvis. Movies. The King, with his smooth moves and powerful voice, captivated millions. Leo had studied everyone, dreaming of being on that silver screen himself. He'd taken acting classes, worked odd jobs, and never missed a chance to perform, even if it was just in front of his family. The role listed wasn't a lead, not even a major supporting character, but it caught his eye. Pippin, a street-smart, quick-witted and agile character who aids the protagonist on his journey. The description didn't mention size, didn't mention height. It mentioned agility, wit, and charm, and Leo knew he had all three. He was quick on his feet, literally and metaphorically. Could talk his way out of a paper bag and had a knack for making people laugh. "This is it, Mama," he declared that morning, slapping the newspaper down on the kitchen table. His mother, a practical woman with kind eyes, had looked at him over her coffee cup. "Another one, honey. Don't get your hopes too high. Hollywood's a tough nut to crack." "This one feels different," Leo insisted. "Pippin?" "It's me, Mama. It's absolutely me." He spent the next few days preparing. He memorized the audition sides, practicing his lines in front of the mirror, giving Pippin a mischievous grin and a rapid-fire delivery. He even worked on some physical comedy routines, imagining how Pippin would navigate crowded city streets or dodge a villain. He wasn't just acting. He was becoming Pippin. The day of the audition arrived, bringing with it a whirlwind of nerves and excitement. The studio lot was massive, bustling with people. He walked into the waiting room, a space filled with hopeful actors, some preening, some whispering lines to themselves. Leo felt a familiar wave of self-consciousness wash over him as he noticed the quick glances, the subtle double takes. He was used to it, but it never stopped stinging a little. He clutched his audition sides tighter, focusing on the words, on Pippin, on his dream. Finally, a harried assistant called his name, Leo Maxwell. He took a deep breath and walked into the audition room. It was brighter than he expected, with a large camera in the corner and a table where 3 people sat. Casting director, a woman with sharp eyes named Ms. Albright, nodded at him. "Mr. Maxwell, thanks for coming in. Take your mark." Leo stood on the X on the floor, trying to ignore the way Ms. Albright's gaze seemed to sweep up and down his frame. He gave them his most charming, confident smile. "All right, Leo Ms." Albright said, "We'd like you to read the scene where Pippin first meets Johnny. Johnny was Elvis's character. Just give us your interpretation." Leo nodded, took another deep breath, and let Pippin take over. He launched into the lines, his voice clear and expressive. He didn't just speak. He embodied Pippin's quick wit, his street smarts, his resilience. When Pippin was supposed to duck under a falling barrel, Leo instinctively ducked and rolled a little, even without a barrel, adding a flash of physical comedy. When Pippin delivered a snappy comeback, Leo's eyes sparkled with mischief. He felt the energy in the room shift. Ms. Albright leaned forward, a flicker of surprise and genuine interest in her eyes. The other 2 people, a director's assistant and a quiet studio executive, seemed to sit up straighter. He finished the scene, holding the character's pose for a moment before letting the Pippin persona drop and returning to Leo Maxwell. Ms. Albright picked up a pen and tapped it thoughtfully on her notepad. "That was quite an interpretation, Mr. Maxwell," she said, a hint of something unreadable in her voice. "Your energy is certainly unique. Thank you, we'll be in touch." It was the standard dismissal, but Leo felt a tiny spark of hope. He'd seen the shift in her eyes. He'd felt the room lean into his performance. As he walked out, he heard one of the assistants whisper, "Well, that was certainly unexpected." Leo smiled to himself. Unexpected was good. Unexpected was what he needed. He left the studio lot, feeling a mix of elation and apprehension. He knew he'd given it his all. Now, all he could do was wait. He hailed a taxi, the setting sun painting the Los Angeles sky in shades of orange and purple. He had put his heart into that audition, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a genuine flicker of possibility. For his big dream, he hoped, unexpected, was exactly what Hollywood needed. Days turned into a week. Leo tried to keep busy, taking extra shifts at the diner where he waited tables, but his mind kept drifting back to the audition. Every time the phone rang, his heart leaped. Every time it was just a telemarketer, or his mom, a little piece of his hope chipped away. He told himself to be realistic. This was Hollywood after all. Thousands auditioned for these roles. Then on a Tuesday morning, it happened. The phone rang, and this time the voice on the other end was professional and unfamiliar. "Mr. Maxwell, this is Sarah from Global Pictures. We'd like you to come in for a callback for Heartbreak Highway." Leo almost dropped the phone. "A callback, really?" "Yes, Mr. Maxwell. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. And," she added, a note of excitement in her voice, "Mr. Presley himself will be there." "Elvis," Leo whispered, his voice cracking. "The king?" "Yes. Please be prompt and bring comfortable clothes. You'll be doing some movement work." Leo hung up his hands, shaking. Elvis, he was going to meet Elvis Presley. Not just meet, but audition for him. This wasn't just a callback. It was a chance to prove himself to the legend himself. He spent the rest of the day in a blur practicing his lines again, focusing on Pippin's physicality, trying to get a good night's sleep, which proved impossible. The next morning, Leo arrived at the studio even earlier. The waiting room was less crowded this time, filled with a select few actors, all equally nervous. Leo recognized a couple of faces from his first audition, but no one who looked anything like him. It made him feel both unique and intensely vulnerable. When his name was called, the feeling of anticipation was almost unbearable. He walked into a larger studio space, brightly lit with a small stage area. Miss Albright was there again, along with the director, Mr. Davies, a man with a kind smile and thoughtful eyes. And then there he was. Elvis Presley. He was even more imposing in person, his presence filling the room. He wore a sharp dark suit, and his famous dark hair was perfectly coiffed. He sat in a chair watching the incoming actors with an unreadable expression. As Leo walked in, Elvis's eyes, an intense blue, met his. Leo felt a jolt of pure awe. He quickly looked away, trying to focus on his mark. "Leo," Mr. Davies said warmly, "good to see you again today. We'd like you to do that scene where Pippin tries to outwit the villain's guards. And then we have a short movement exercise." Leo nodded, took a breath, and started the scene. This time, knowing Elvis was watching, fueled his performance. He put even more energy into Pippin's quick thinking, his desperate cleverness. He ducked, he weaved, he mimed, jumping over obstacles, his movements surprisingly fluid and precise. Poured all his heart into it, making Pippin not just a character, but a living, breathing, quick-witted hero. When he finished, there was a beat of silence, and Mr. Davies was scribbling a genuine approving smile. Then Elvis spoke. His voice, surprisingly deep and resonant, filled the room. "Well, I'll be," he drawled, a small smile playing on his lips. "That boy's got fire and some mighty fine moves." Leo's heart soared. Elvis Presley had complimented him. "All right, Leo," Mr. Davies said. "Now for the movement exercise. Imagine you're trying to sneak through a crowded marketplace, unnoticed, carrying a fragile package." Leo imagined it. He hunched his shoulders, making himself even smaller, weaving through invisible crowds, his eyes darting around, his movements light and quick. He navigated imaginary stalls, dodged invisible shoppers. Always, with a hint of Pippin's playful agility, he made it look effortless, almost like a dance. When he finished, Elvis let out a low whistle. He disappears right into the scenery, then pops out when you least expect it. That's a real talent. Elvis then stood up and walked over, his gaze direct and considering. Leo felt a blush creep up his neck, but he held Elvis's gaze. "What's your name again, son?" Elvis asked, his voice softer now, more personal. "Leo, sir." "Leo Maxwell." "Leo Maxwell," Elvis repeated, a thoughtful hum in his voice. "You got something special. Leo, I like it." "A lot." He gave Leo a wink. "Thank you." His mind reeling, he was dismissed. But this time the feeling was different. He hadn't just performed, he'd connected. He'd shown them what he could do. And Elvis, the Elvis, had seen it. As he walked out, he heard MS Albright's voice a little louder than before. "He really does have something, doesn't he? Very distinctive." He knew then he had a real shot. Maybe, just maybe, his dream wasn't so far out of reach after all. He left the studio lot that day feeling lighter than air, the king's words echoing in his mind. "You got something special, Leo." The next week was the longest of Leo's life. He tried to busy himself, but every moment was overshadowed by the waiting. He replayed the callback in his mind 1,000 times, dissecting every word, every look. Had Elvis really meant it? Was his something special enough then? The phone rang. It was Global Pictures again. "Mr. Maxwell, Mrs. Sarah, we have some exciting news for you." The director, Mr. Davies, and Mr. Presley himself were very impressed. "You got the role of Pippin in Heartbreak Highway." I got it, really." His voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, congratulations, Leo. We'll be sending over the contract details, and we'd like you to come in next week for costume fittings and a read-through with the cast. Welcome aboard." He hung up his Maxwell was going to be in an Elvis Presley movie. He was going to be an actor. Tears welled in his eyes. Tears of relief, of joy, of pure, unadulterated triumph. He immediately called his mom. Her reaction was a mix of disbelief and overwhelming pride. "Oh, Leo, my boy. I always knew you had it in you." The news spread fast. A few days later, a small article appeared in a Hollywood trade paper, announcing the principal cast for Heartbreak Highway. Leo's name was there next to Elvis Presley and some other well-known actors. The article briefly mentioned the unconventional casting choice for the role of Pippin. That was the first hint of trouble. Unconventional was a polite word for different. Soon the whispers started. Leo saw them online, on entertainment. Elvis's new sidekick. He's a little person. Is this a gimmick? Why would they cast someone like that for a serious role? Seems like a publicity stunt. He tried to ignore it, but the negativity stung. He had earned this role with his talent. Not because of his height. He pushed the doubts aside, determined to prove them all wrong. The day of the cast read-through arrived. Leo, dressed in his best, felt a surge of professional excitement as he walked into the large conference room. He saw Elvis looking relaxed but commanding, chatting with the director and the film's leading lady. As he found his seat at the long table, he felt the familiar gazes. Most of the actors were polite, offering quick smiles and introductions. But he also caught a few sideways glances, a couple of raised eyebrows. One of the studio executives, a stern-faced man named Mr. Henderson, gave him a curt nod that felt more like a dismissal. The read-through began. As Johnny was brilliant, bringing life to the character with his unique charm. When it was Leo's turn, he slipped into Pippin effortlessly. He read his lines with the energy and wit he'd perfected, making Pippin come alive. He could feel the script supervisor nodding. Even MS Albright, who was present, gave him a small, approving smile. During a break, Elvis stood up to stretch, and as he walked past Leo's chair, he paused. He put a hand on Leo's shoulder. "You're sounding great. Leo, Pippin's going to be a real staying aid. I can feel it." His voice was low for Leo's ears only. Leo looked up, a surge of gratitude washing over him. "Thanks, Mr. Presley. That means a lot." "Call me Elvis, son," he said, giving Leo a warm, genuine smile. "We're all family here. Once we start rolling." That simple gesture, that quiet word of encouragement, was a shield against the subtle skepticism Leo felt from others in the room. If Elvis believed in him, that's all that mattered. Later that day, after the read-through concluded, Leo overheard a conversation in the hallway. Mr. Henderson was speaking quietly but firmly to Mr. Davies. "Are we sure about this, David? His height, it's just so distracting. It might pull the audience out of the story, and the press is already making a fuss. Maybe we can adjust the role, make him more background." Mr. Henderson: "Leo's performance was exactly what we needed for Pippin. He brings an incredible spark, and Elvis himself approved him." "Strongly can change," Henderson scoffed. "He's the king. He doesn't need a novelty sidekick to sell tickets. Just think about it." Leo felt a cold knot in his stomach. The whispers, the doubts, they weren't just online. They were in the studio, coming from the very people who held the power. Clenched his fists, a wave of despair, threatening to drown his joy. Was his dream already under threat before filming even began? He walked away before they could see him. But the words echoed in his mind. Distracting, novelty, gimmick. He had to prove them wrong. He would prove them wrong. The first day of principal photography for Heartbreak Highway dawned bright and early. Leo arrived on set, his heart a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety. He was led to his trailer, a small but comfortable space, with his name, Leo Maxwell Pippin, taped to the door. It was real. He headed to the costume department first. His Pippin costume was exactly as he'd imagined. Rugged, practical, but with a touch of playful flair. The wardrobe assistant, a sweet older woman named Martha, helped him get dressed. "You look wonderful, dear," she cooed, adjusting his collar. "Pippin is going to be quite the character." From there he went to makeup. Everyone was friendly, welcoming. But as he walked through the bustling set, he noticed the subtle stares again. Some were curious, some seemed genuinely kind, but others felt judgmental. He found the soundstage where they were filming the first scene. It was a bustling mock-up of a 1950s street. Elvis, in full costume as Johnny, was already there, rehearsing with Mr. Davies. Leo watched mesmerized by the sheer star power of Elvis. Prop master, a burly man with a perpetually tired expression, walked by carrying a heavy box. He didn't seem to notice Leo until he nearly bumped into him. "Watch it, kid," the prop master grumbled, sidestepping quickly. "Didn't see you there?" He didn't mean any harm, but the words and the slight annoyed sigh that followed made Leo feel invisible and oversized at the same time. Quickly mumbled an apology, even though it wasn't really his fault. Later, during a setup for a wide shot, Leo was instructed to stand on a specific mark. Cameraman, peering through his lens, muttered to his assistant, "Can we even get him in the frame properly? He's so low. Maybe he should stand on an apple box." The assistant, the young woman, quickly replied, "Mr. Davies said no boxes unless explicitly necessary for the scene. He wants to emphasize Pippin's natural stature." The cameraman grunted. "Whatever just makes my job harder." He tried to keep a neutral expression, but his jaw tightened. It wasn't outright hostility, but it was a constant low hum of dismissiveness. He felt like an inconvenience rather than a valuable part of the team. He was waiting for his first shot. A simple scene where Pippin spots Johnny and quickly approaches him to deliver a message. He stood by the set, trying to calm his nerves. Another actor, a tall, imposing man named Roger, who played one of the villain's henchmen, walked by. Roger was known for his gruff demeanor and had a reputation for being a bit of a bully on set. He paused, looking down at Leo with a smirk. "Well, well," Roger drawled, his voice loud enough for a few people nearby to hear. "The little fella, so. You're the big surprise casting everyone's buzzing about. Huh, you planning on doing acrobatics for the camera, or just standing around looking small?" Leo felt a flush creep up his neck. His stomach clenched, but his voice seemed stuck. Before Leo could gather his thoughts, a familiar voice cut through the air, clear and authoritative. "Roger, what intonation are you doing, Elvis?" He had walked up unseen by Roger and was standing directly behind him, his arms crossed over his chest. His expression was serious, his eyes narrowed. Roger, visibly, stiffened, his morbid pulpor. "Oh, Elvis, just saying hello to the new cast member. Getting acquainted." He forced a laugh that sounded hollow. Elvis's gaze remained fixed on Roger. "You got a funny way of saying hello, Roger. Seems to me you were just being plain rude. Leo here is a professional, just like the rest of us. He earned his spot fair and square, and if I hear any men on this set, I'll be having a very serious talk with them, understand?" Elvis's voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable steel beneath it. Roger's face turned a shade of mottled red. "Yes." Elvis understood my apologies. "Leo," he mumbled the last part, avoiding eye contact before quickly making his exit. Elvis turned to Leo, his expression softening instantly. "You all right, Leo?" Leo nodded, still a little stunned. "Yes, Elvis, thanks. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," Elvis interrupted gently. "Nobody's going to make you feel unwelcome here. Not on my set. You belong here. Leo, you got talent, and that's all that matters. Don't you forget it." He patted Leo lightly on the shoulder before walking back towards Mr. Davies. Leo watched him go, a wave of warmth washing over him. Elvis's words, his powerful defense, had chased away the icy feeling of dismissal. He still had to prove himself, but knowing he had Elvis in his corner made all the difference. Today was tough, but he was ready to face it. The atmosphere on set shifted subtly after Elvis's intervention. Roger, for his part, avoided Leo. Like the plague, his usual boisterousness toned down considerably. Other crew members who might have been inclined to make casual, thoughtless remarks now thought twice. Elvis had drawn a line in the sand, and everyone knew it. Still, the underlying challenges remained, for the camera crew framing shots with Leo sometimes posed a unique problem, requiring them to adjust angles and lenses more frequently. Props that were standard size often seemed comically large next to him, and they had to be swapped out for custom-made versions. These were logistical issues, not malicious, but they added time and often led to frustrated sighs from certain crew members. Leo tried to take it all in stride. He knew he was different, and he was determined not to be a burden. He offered suggestions, moved quickly to his marks, and did his best to make everyone's job easier. He kept his focus on his performance, pouring all his energy into bringing Pippin to life. One afternoon, during a scene set in a busy marketplace, Pippin was supposed to duck and weave through a crowd, snatching a key from a guard's belt. The set was crowded with extras, and the choreography was precise. Leo nailed the key, snatch his movements, swift and almost invisible. But in one take, an extra rushing past accidentally bumped into him, nearly knocking him off balance. Leo recovered quickly, but the shot was ruined. "Cut," yelled Mr. Davies. "All right. Reset, everyone. Watch your marks." "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, Mr. Maxwell. I didn't see you there." "It's all right," Leo said, forcing a smile. "No harm done." But a stagehand standing nearby scoffed loud enough to be heard. "Guess we need a neon sign for the little guy, huh? Hard to keep track." Leo's shoulders slumped almost imperceptibly. He felt a familiar knot tightening in his stomach. He was trying his best, but it seemed like no matter what, his size was always going to be the central focus for some people. Suddenly, a hand clapped the stagehand firmly on the shoulder. It was Elvis. He hadn't been in the immediate vicinity, but his ears, it seemed, were always open. "Son," Elvis said, his voice quiet but with an edge that sent shivers down Leo's spine. "You want to talk about hard to keep track of?" He gestured towards the massive, intricate set. "We got a whole film crew, hundreds of extras, 1,000 props, and you're worried about one actor's height." The stagehand looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him whole. "No, Elvis, I just..." "Listen," Elvis continued, cutting him off, his voice dropping slightly but losing none of its intensity. The stagehand, eyes wide with fear, nodded frantically. "Got it, Elvis." "Yes, sir." "Sorry, Leo." Elvis didn't linger. He simply gave the stagehand a hard look, then turned to Leo and offered a quick, reassuring wink. "Just focus on that key, Pippin. You're doing great." Then he walked off, preparing for the next take. Leo stared after him, feeling a powerful surge of gratitude. This wasn't just a casual defense. This was Elvis using his considerable influence to protect him, to uplift him. He wasn't just defending Leo's right to be there. He was defending Leo's worth as an actor, as a person. The incident, small as it was, sent ripples through the set. Crew members who had previously been merely neutral towards Leo started offering him encouraging smiles. Cameraman, who had grumbled about his height, now seemed to go out of his way to get the best angles. Everyone had heard Elvis's firm, unwavering stance. Leo felt a newfound strength. He realized that Elvis wasn't just being kind. He was setting an example. He was demonstrating that true professionalism and respect had nothing to do with height or appearance, but everything to do with talent and character. From that moment on, Leo walked a little taller, metaphorically speaking. He performed with even more confidence, knowing that he had the king's powerful support. He was Pippin, and he was here to shine no matter what anyone else thought. Despite Elvis's unwavering support, the technical challenges of filmmaking, combined with Leo's unique physical presence, sometimes created frustrations. The director, Mr. Davies, was always patient and innovative, but some of the other crew members, particularly a veteran set designer named Frank, were less adaptable. Frank was a good man, dedicated to his craft, but he was stuck in his ways. He was used to building sets for actors of a certain height, and Leo often felt like an afterthought in his designs. One day they were filming a scene in a dimly lit alleyway, where Pippin was supposed to quickly climb onto a series of stacked crates to peer over a wall. "All right, Leo," Mr. Davies said, "you'll need to make that climb look effortless. Fast, stealthy, then a quick peek." Leo looked at the crates. They were tall, uneven, and surprisingly shaky. He could climb them, but it wouldn't look effortless or stealthy. He might even fall. Mr. Davies," Leo began hesitantly, "these crates, they're a little high. Could we maybe use a couple of lower ones or secure them more firmly? It's tough to make it look smooth." Frank, who was standing nearby, scoffed. "Tough. It's just a couple of crates, kid. Actors climb stuff all the time. Don't tell me you can't handle a simple climb." Leo felt his face flush. "It's not about handling it, sir. It's about making it look natural for Pippin and safety." "Safety?" Frank laughed. "We've had bigger star-scale actual walls for a shot. This is just a pile of wood." Elvis, who had been watching the exchange, stepped forward. "Frank," he said, his voice calm but firm, "let's remember who we're working with here. Leo's right. The climb needs to look seamless. If the crates are too high or unstable for him to make it look convincing, then it breaks the illusion. And safety is always paramount." He turned to Leo. "What do you suggest, Leo? How can we make it work for Pippin?" Leo felt a surge of gratitude. "If we could have 3 crates, maybe, instead of 2, so each step is smaller. Or if the existing ones were simply more stable, perhaps nailed together a bit." Elvis nodded thoughtfully. "Good ideas, Frank. Can you and your team adjust those crates? Let's get them right for the scene. We want Pippin to be a hero, not a struggling stuntman," Frank grumbled, but he didn't argue further. He went to work, muttering under his breath about special requirements. Later, Leo successfully performed the scene, his movements fluid and convincing thanks to the adjusted crates. But the incident left him feeling drained. It wasn't just the physical challenge, it was the constant need to explain, to justify, to adapt a world that wasn't built for him. Even with Elvis's support, the little jabs, the implied criticisms chipped away at his confidence. His primary co-star for many scenes outside of Elvis was a seasoned actress named Eleanor Vance, who played the role of the elegant and somewhat aloof socialite who Johnny's character was trying to charm. Eleanor was professional, but she had a regal air about her, and Leo often felt she looked down on him. She never said anything openly derogatory, but her subtle eye rolls, her dismissive tone, and her tendency to talk over him rather than to him during rehearsals were like tiny sharp needles. One day during a break, Leo was quietly rehearsing his lines, focusing on a particularly emotional scene where Pippin expresses his loyalty to Johnny. Eleanor walked by, fanning herself with her script. Honestly, she sighed loud enough for Leo to hear, though she wasn't looking at him. This script so much melodrama. And some of these characters are just so simplistic, like a child's drawing. She glanced at him, then a faint, almost imperceptible smirk on her lips. No depth, really? Leo knew she was talking about Pippin, about him. His character was not simplistic. He was layered, courageous, and deeply loyal. He was the heart of the story, in a way. But Eleanor's words made him doubt himself. Was he too simple? He spent the rest of the day struggling with the scene. Feeling self-conscious, he stumbled over his lines. His usual spark dulled. "Leo, you all right?" he asked gently after a take. "You seem a little off today. Pippin's usually so vibrant." Leo mumbled an apology, trying to brush it off, but it couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy. He saw Eleanor watching him from the side, a knowing look on her face. He retreated to his trailer during lunch, feeling disheartened. He loved this opportunity, he loved playing Pippin, and he adored Elvis. The constant need to justify his presence, the subtle put-downs were exhausting. He wondered if he truly belonged here, if he could ever be seen as just an actor, without his size being the first thing people noticed. Maybe he wasn't strong enough to handle the pressures of Hollywood. Maybe Eleanor was right. Maybe he was just a simplistic gimmick. The next few days were difficult for Leo. Eleanor Vance's subtle digs continued chipping away at his confidence. He started overthinking every line, every movement. His usual spark, which had so impressed Elvis and Mr. Davies, was dimming. He felt perpetually on edge, trying to anticipate the next slight. Climax of the film involved a tense scene where Johnny, Elvis, and Pippin infiltrate the villain's hideout. It was a complex sequence requiring precise timing and quick reactions from both actors. Leo, as Pippin, was supposed to scale a low wall, unlatch a gate, and then quickly disable a guard. During rehearsals, Leo had been perfect, his agility shining. But today, under the pressure, and with Eleanor Vance making her usual subtle, disparaging remarks from the sidelines about how long this simple scene was taking, Leo felt his anxiety rise. On one take, as he unlatched the gate, his hands slipped slightly, making a small clang. It was enough to ruin the take. "Cut," yelled Mr. Davies. "All right. Race, Mile, watch your hands." Soothed and silent, Eleanor, who was not in this particular shot, but was observing from a chair near the monitors, let out a loud theatrical sigh. "Oh, for goodness sake," she muttered, not bothering to lower her voice. "Are we going to be here all day with this? Some people just aren't cut out for precision work, are they? Perhaps Pippin should just stay behind the wall and wait for the real heroes to do the work." Her words hung in the air, sharp and deliberately cruel. Leo flinched as if struck. He felt a wave of humiliation wash over him, his face draining of color. He could feel everyone on set look from Eleanor to him, the silence thick with tension. Elvis, who had been standing next to Leo perfectly still, his back to Eleanor, slowly turned. His usual cheerful demeanor was gone, replaced by an expression of pure, icy fury. His blue eyes, usually warm and captivating, were now like chips of ice. He walked slowly towards Eleanor Vance, his steps deliberate, every eye in the room following him. Eleanor, for her part, looked surprised, then a little nervous, but still haughty. "Eleanor," Elvis said, his voice dangerously quiet, a low growl that carried across the set. "Did I just hear you disrespecting a fellow actor on my set?" Eleanor scoffed, trying to regain her composure. "Oh, Elvis, darling, I was merely expressing some frustration with the delays. We all want to get this film finished, don't we? And frankly, some actors just aren't on the same level as others. She gave Leo a condescending glance. Elvis stopped directly in front of her chair, towering over her. His voice rose, losing its quiet menace and gaining power, echoing across the silent sound. Stage. Let me tell you something, Eleanor. Every single person on this set, from the newest intern to the lead actor, deserves respect. And every single person was chosen because they are the best at what they do. Leo Maxwell earned his role. He leaned in his voice, dropping slightly but still carrying immense weight. He's a crucial part of this movie, and I wouldn't have it any other way. He straightened up, his gaze sweeping across the stunned crew. If anyone else, you come talk to me. Don't you dare whisper. Don't you dare mock. And don't you dare make someone feel less than they are. We're a team here, and if you can't be a team player, Eleanor, then maybe this isn't the right team for you. The threat was clear. The unspoken word was fired. Eleanor's face, which had been pale with shock, now turned a mottled red. She looked utterly humiliated, unable to meet Elvis's gaze. Elvis then turned to Mr. Davies. David, can we clear the set for 5 minutes? Just cast and essential crew. Mr. Davies, looking impressed and relieved, quickly agreed. Everyone clear the set. Take 5. As people shuffled out, Elvis placed a hand on Leo's shoulder, his touch gentle and reassuring. You all right, Leo? He asked, his voice soft again, full of concern. Leo could only nod, tears pricking his eyes. He was overwhelmed by Elvis's defense, by the sheer power and conviction in his words. It wasn't just a simple stand, it was a full-blown declaration. A protection so fierce it took his breath away. He finally understood the true meaning of Elvis's powerful defense. The air on set was thick with the aftermath of Elvis's powerful confrontation. As the non-essential crew cleared out, a stunned silence hung over the remaining few. Eleanor Vance, looking utterly shrunken and defeated, sat rigidly in her chair, avoiding everyone's gaze. Elvis didn't say another word to her. He simply turned back to Leo, his expression full of warmth and concern. Leo, I need you to know something. What she said, it was ugly, and it was wrong. Don't you let anyone, not for a single second, make you doubt your talent or your worth. You are an exceptional actor, and you're making Pippin into something truly special for this film. Leo, still reeling, managed to stammer, Thank you, Elvis. I don't know what to say. Elvis smiled gently. You don't need to say anything, just remember why you're here. You're here because you're good. You're here because you belong. Now let's take a quick breather, and then we're going to nail that scene, you and I. We're a team, Pippin. Mr. Davies, who had been standing by, walked over. Leo, he said, his voice firm but kind. Elvis is right. Your performance has been outstanding. Don't let anyone's ignorance or jealousy affect your work. He then turned to Eleanor. Eleanor, your behavior today was unacceptable. I expect a sincere apology to Leo and a complete shift in attitude. If there's any repetition of this, we'll have to reconsider your position on this project. Eleanor, her face still pale, finally managed to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. Leo, I apologize. I was out of line. My remarks were uncalled for. She didn't look at him directly, but the apology was there, forced though it was. Leo simply nodded, accepting it. He didn't expect a sudden friendship, but he did appreciate the public acknowledgement. When the rest of the crew returned a few minutes later, the difference in the atmosphere was palpable. There was an unspoken understanding, a new level of respect that settled over the set. Everyone had witnessed Elvis's unwavering loyalty and his fierce protection of Leo's presence or talent again. The stagehand who had made the earlier comment about the neon sign now went out of his way to offer Leo a cup of coffee and a friendly smile. The cameraman worked meticulously to ensure Leo was perfectly framed in every shot, consulting with Mr. Davies on the best angles. Eleanor Vance, true to the warning, became remarkably professional. She still had a reserved air, but the subtle sneers and dismissive gestures were gone. She addressed Leo directly when necessary, and kept her opinions about other actors to herself. The change was remarkable. Leo, in turn, felt a tremendous weight lift from his shoulders. He no longer walked on two, set with a knot in his stomach, anticipating the next critical glance or cutting remark. He could focus entirely on his craft. On bringing Pippin to life with every ounce of his talent, his performance blossomed. He rediscovered the spark that had impressed Ms. Albright and Elvis in the first place. He brought a deeper emotional resonance to Pippin, making him not just quick-witted and agile, but also deeply empathetic and loyal. He and Elvis developed a natural rhythm on screen, their chemistry undeniable. Their scenes together flowed with an ease and charm that often surprised Mr. Davies. "Amazing, Leo," Mr. Davies would exclaim after a particularly good take. "That was perfect. Pippin's going to steal every scene he's in." Elvis would often give him a thumbs up or a quiet nod of approval. During breaks, he would invite Leo to sit with him, sharing stories about his early career, offering advice about handling fame and criticism. He didn't treat Leo as a novelty or a project. He treated him as a respected colleague and a friend. One evening, after a long day of filming, Elvis put an arm around Leo's shoulder as they walked off set. "You know, Leo," Elvis said, a thoughtful look on his face, "when I first started out, a lot of people tried to tell me I was too raw, too different, that my music was just a fad. They tried to put me in a box, just like some folks tried to do. But you can't let them. You gotta believe in yourself. Leo, you gotta shine your light no matter how much they try to dim it. And if anyone ever tries to tell you you don't belong." Leo looked up at Elvis, his eyes shining. Those words, coming from Elvis Presley, were more powerful than any award, any compliment. He finally felt completely, unequivocally accepted. He was no longer just a little person trying to make it in a big world. He was Leo Maxwell, an actor, a friend of the king, and a vital part of Heartbreak Highway. With the negativity banished from the set, the production of Heartbreak Highway truly hit its stride. Leo's performance as Pippin went from good to outstanding. He felt liberated, free to explore the nuances of his character without the suffocating weight of self-consciousness or the fear of judgment. His scenes with Elvis were electric. The on-screen chemistry between Johnny and Pippin became one of the film's unexpected highlights. Leo's natural quickness, comedic timing, and expressive face perfectly complement Elvis's Natick and often brooding hero. Pippin became Johnny's loyal shadow, his quick-witted informant, and his moral compass. Their banter was sharp, their camaraderie genuine. One particularly memorable scene involved Pippin leading Johnny through a labyrinthine back alley to escape some pursuing villains. The script called for Pippin to navigate tight spaces, scale small obstacles, and point Johnny in the right direction. Leo choreographed his movements with precision, making every duck weave and climb look utterly natural and even heroic. "Fantastic, Leo," Mr. Davies cheered after one take. "You make that look like a ballet, Elvis. You just follow the master." Elvis laughed, genuinely impressed. "He really does. You're the best guide a fellow could ask for, Pippin." He ruffled Leo's hair playfully. During lunch breaks, Elvis would often invite Leo to join him in his trailer, or they'd sit together at the catering table, away from the main crowd. They talked about everything: acting techniques, music, life, family. Elvis seemed genuinely interested in Leo's journey, and Leo in turn found Elvis to be a surprisingly humble and thoughtful man beneath the superstar persona. "You know, Leo," Elvis said one day, taking a bite of his peanut butter and banana sandwich, "you remind me of myself when I first started, just hungry to prove yourself, hungry for the work." Leo blushed. "That's a huge compliment, Elvis, coming from you." "It's the truth," Elvis insisted. "You got something special, son, and don't you ever let anyone tell you otherwise. This industry can be tough, It can try to cheer you up and spit you out, but you hold on to who you are, and you'll go far. Their friendship deepened over the weeks. Elvis made sure Leo felt included in every aspect of the production. When the crew had a casual barbecue, Elvis made sure Leo was sitting right next to him. He'd introduce Leo to important studio executives, not as the actor who plays Pippin, but as my friend Leo Maxwell, one of the most talented actors I've ever worked with. These public endorsements solidified Leo's place on set and in the film. Other actors on the set, seeing Elvis's genuine respect and affection for Leo, followed suit. They started approaching Leo for advice on their lines, or just to chat. Eleanor Vance remained professional, but she even offered Leo a genuine compliment on his work after a particularly difficult scene. "That was quite moving, Leo," she'd said, a touch of surprise in her voice. The filming days flew by. Leo learned so much, not just about acting for the camera, but about the whole process of filmmaking, about the intricacies of working with a large team. He absorbed every piece of advice from Mr. Davies, from the cinematographers, from Elvis himself. He felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be. As the final weeks of shooting approached, a sense of bittersweetness settled in. Leo was excited for the film to be finished and released, but he would miss the daily rhythm of the set, and especially the camaraderie he had found with Elvis. On the very last day of shooting for Leo's scenes, Mr. Davies gathered the crew and cast. "All right, that's a wrap for Leo Maxwell as Pippin," he announced. The set erupted in applause. Elvis walked over, a wide smile on his face. He shook Leo's hand warmly and pulled him into a brief, firm hug. "You did it, Leo. You really did it. You knocked it out of the park." "Couldn't have done it without you, Elvis," Leo said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for everything." "Anytime, buddy," Elvis replied, giving his shoulder a squeeze. "Now go on and get some rest. You earned it, and get ready, because pretty soon the whole world is going to know who Pippin is and who Leo Maxwell is." Leo walked off the set that day, not just as an actor who had finished a job, but as someone who had found his place, validated by the king himself. He was no longer worried about being seen as a gimmick. He was proud. He was an artist, and he knew deep down that this was just the beginning. Months later, the buzz around Heartbreak Highway grew louder and louder. Trailers aired on television showing glimpses of the thrilling story, and, to Leo's delight, several prominent shots of Pip. The unconventional casting whispers had faded, replaced by genuine intrigue about the energetic, quick-witted sidekick. The day of the Hollywood premiere finally arrived. Leo, dressed in a sharp new suit, stood beside his mother on the red carpet, a nervous but exhilarated flutter in his stomach. Flashbulbs popped, reporters shouted questions, and the air crackled with excitement. He saw Elvis looking dapper and impossibly famous, already surrounded by a throng of reporters. As Elvis caught sight of Leo, he broke away from the crowd and made his way over, a wide, genuine smile lighting up his face. "Leo, looking sharp, buddy." Elvis clapped him on the back. "Mrs. Maxwell, it's an honor to meet the mother of such a talented young man." Leo's mother beamed, completely starstruck. "Mr. Presley, the honor is all ours. You've been so kind to Leo." "He deserves it," Elvis said, his eyes on Leo. "He's a star." He put an arm around Leo's shoulder. "Ready to see our hard work up on the big screen." Inside the opulent theater, Leo sat with his mother, surrounded by stars, studio executives, and critics. His heart pounded as the lights dimmed and the Global Pictures logo appeared on screen. When Pippin first appeared, the audience laughed at his quick wit, then gasped at his agility. As the story unfolded, Leo watched in awe. Pippin wasn't just a sidekick. He was truly a crucial part of the narrative, his cleverness and loyalty often saving Johnny from dire situations. The bond between Johnny and Pippin felt real, earned through every shared glance and daring escape. When Pippin had his moments of vulnerability, when he expressed his fear or his deep loyalty, Leo heard sniffles in the audience. He had given Pippin a soul, and the audience was connecting with it. The final scene with Pippin and Johnny, a quiet moment of camaraderie after their adventure, drew a warm murmur of approval from the audience. Leo felt a lump in his throat. He had done its role. The theater erupted in applause. Leo felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Elvis. "They loved you, Leo," he whispered, his eyes shining with pride. "They absolutely loved you." At the after-party, critics and industry professionals flocked to Leo, praising his performance. "You stole every scene. Pippin is the heart of the film." Another declared, "Your comedic timing is impeccable." Leo floated through the party, shaking hands, accepting compliments, his head spinning. It was everything he had ever dreamed of, and more. The next morning the reviews poured in. While critics praised Elvis's performance and the film's exciting plot, almost every single review singled out Leo Maxwell's portrayal of Pippin. A revelation. Leo Maxwell's Pippin is a breakout performance, proving that true talent transcends physical stature. Maxwell's Pippin is the emotional core of Heartbreak Highway. His quick wit and surprising depth make him an unforgettable character. Elvis Presley finds his perfect foil in Leo Maxwell's Pippin, whose agile and endearing performance is a genuine delight. The public embraced Pippin wholeheartedly. Children wanted to be Pippin. Adults cheered for his courage. Leo Maxwell, the little person who had faced skepticism and prejudice, was now a celebrated actor. His phone rang off the hook with new offers. Directors who had previously overlooked him were now eager to meet him. He was no longer unconventional. He was simply talented. Over the years, Leo continued to act, building a respected career. He never forgot the challenges he faced or the powerful defense that had changed the course of his life. He and Elvis remained friends, their bond forged in the crucible of that film set. They would occasionally meet, sharing stories and laughs always, with a deep, unspoken understanding between them. Elvis Presley had not just given Leo Maxwell a role in a movie. He had given him a chance, protected his spirit, and helped him open doors that might otherwise have remained shut. He had shown the world that kindness, courage, and true talent were the most powerful forces of all, capable of breaking down any barrier, no matter how tall. And for Leo Maxwell, that was the greatest legacy of all.